Hello, and welcome to the Spiderlair. I'm Spider, of course, and on this channel we like to take a prompt and then make a character based off the prompt. Or that's what we would usually do, but in this case I am sprinkling in another 5 to 10 minute quickie where I just do whatever I want with the audio. And you might notice that I sound a little bit sleepy. And that brings me to a topic that I would like to address, and it is the importance of rest and questioning the nature of productivity and thinking about why so much importance is placed on being productive. It would make sense in the culture that I'm in, where we all are forced to participate in capitalism. And if we don't, even if we don't agree with it, there is carceral punishment and repercussions and consequences. And so we're all sort of convinced by richer people that we will get to join their elite of richness if we just really get on that grind, produce, when honestly it's just a way for them to get all of our time and labor, break our bodies and our minds just to make rich people richer, because the point is to just siphon all of the money under a conglomerate. And I think the end game of capitalism is that one person just has all the money and nobody does, since the divide becomes bigger and bigger. But so we're all kind of like racing to that end, it seems. It almost seems to kind of eat itself in how much waste it produces. It's almost as if its goal is to produce waste and to ruin lives. And so in that respect, it makes sense that, we see somebody as a deadbeat if they're not productive, they're not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. Just don't think that the point of life was to just kind of work some job you hate until you die. I don't think that's the point of it. I think the only actual point of life is to just have an experience. It's not to produce a bunch of things. It's not to gain a bunch of fame. It's not a puzzle. It's not a problem to solve. It's just what it is. It's just meant to be experienced, and that's it. That's really your only actual obligation, if you will. At the root of it is usually coercion, and that's definitely what capitalism is. It coerces you into doing work that you wouldn't normally want to do. I would much rather be doing something that felt fulfilling, that actually helped my community, than telemarketing or all the past jobs that I've worked at that don't actually serve any kind of function to the society or my community. And it should be a good thing that robots are replacing most labor, because that would mean that we wouldn't have to do it. But instead, capitalism tells us that, well, now rich people are just going to use that as a tool to get richer. And it's almost like we could just throw out this whole system. And I know it's not the economic system everywhere, but it is quite a predominant one. It's causing a lot of issues, definitely destroying the planet. So back on the idea of rest, if your worth is determined socially by how much you can produce, like, that's pretty ableist, right? Some people just can't. Their bodies can't keep up with that, and they're just born that way. It's not in their control. There's no amount of willpower you can have that's going to change the way your neurons fire in your brain. I'm gonna always be neurodiverse, and the world was not built for my specific brand of neurodiversity. And usually anybody's brain is judged on a scale of how good or bad it is based on how well it can operate within the confines of, well, is it making someone money somewhere? That's all we really care about, right? The ideal worker, no sick days, no mental health days, all that. So in that respect, I see rest as almost a revolutionary act. Taking time for yourself. Capitalism and a lot of economic structures would have you believing that taking time for yourself is selfish. Those systems would rather you be so busy that you're not thinking about the state of affairs. You're not thinking about how much waste your economic structure is producing. You're not thinking about how unfair the system is. You're not thinking about systematic oppression. You're just concerned with, I just have to make ends meet. so that I can pay all my bills off in time. And then when I get home, I'm just going to crash, and then I'm going to wake up the next morning and go back to my job where I get paid pennies. And, it just keeps you busy. It's a distraction. And I think during the pandemic, a lot of people, when a lot of people couldn't work, and they had time to sit and think and actually rest, it makes sense that they got depressed. They started questioning things. That's what happens when we even just have a month to ourselves to think about anything, because what it robs us most of is the time needed to sit and feel feelings. And for a long time, I was convinced that feeling your feelings was not very practical. I was raised in an environment societally where everyone was, where it's like, oh, you push those down. You don't think about, you do what's best for the group and not what's best for you. It's selfish to be overly emotional, quote unquote. So I had a very determined and pointed goal of silencing the part of myself that felt strong emotions, of ignoring them, of distracting myself from them. I did this with substance abuse. I did this with keeping myself really busy. There was a time in my life where I was going to 2 different colleges and I had 3 jobs. One of them was at home. So I never had a moment where I wasn't busy doing something for somebody else. And in a weird way, I've done this before with working out, where I would just work out for 4 hours of the day, and then I'd be so tired I went home and I couldn't think about anything else but rest. I would sleep, And realizing now through lots of therapy and medication and things that it's quite important to sit around and feel your feelings, because all feelings are information, and they're just telling you what you need. And if you know what you need, it's ironically easier to get a lot of things done. Like, weirdly, if productivity is your goal, it's odd, but resting is an important part of productivity, because when you're getting your body the things it needs, you're more stable, you have more energy, you're less drained all the time, you're addressing core wounds that need to be healed and not just bypassing, not just sort of ignoring. So whatever your motivations are, if you're trying to improve your mental health, if you are ironically trying to be productive, I implore you to rest and to really be honest with yourself. Is productivity just something you use to distract yourself from having to feel emotions? So just some food for thought. I hope you all rest well for the holidays and get a good recharge, and I'll see you soon. Bye.